Welcome everybody once again to the Latino Book and Family Festivals. Today we have an award-winning author session and we hope you can join us. Okay, but first of all, let me say that I want to thank our sponsor, Energy Upgrade California. They have a statewide initiative and they are committed to helping Californians to be more energy efficient and reduce the energy demand. So please follow them at Energy Upgrade California on social media. Let me stop the share. There you go. Welcome everyone to this session. And if you're watching us on Facebook, don't forget, you can just type in the chat any comments. Where are you watching this presentation from? And you're welcome to join the presentation here with the presenters. I will be posting the link to this Zoom in the chat here shortly. So allow me to go ahead and introduce the presenters for today. And there we go. There we go. Okay, so today's presenters, we have 5 award-winning authors joining us here today. We're gonna go ahead and start in the order that they are listed here. And as each one of the presenters is gonna speak a little bit about themselves, basically tell us a little bit about your story, share us who you are, and a little bit about your books as well. Let me go ahead.
Please help me welcome our first presenter today, Ismae Williams. Is a critically acclaimed author of the young adult contemporary #Own Voices, Water in May, and The Train is Being Held, a junior library guide selection, published by Amulet Books. Ismee has been an invited speaker at the Virginia Festival of the Books, the New York City Teen Author Festival, the Southern Kentucky Book Festival, and the Bronx Book Festival, among others. Ismee is a pediatric cartologist who trained and worked in New York City for over 20 years. She is the daughter of a Cuban immigrant and was partially raised by her abuelos. You can find her on Twitter or Instagram at Ismae Williams. Her website, ismaewilliams.com.
Okay, welcome everybody. Ismae, would you like to take on from now?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having this amazing festival and for inviting me. I'm very honored to be here. And this is my very first appearance since I found out that my sophomore young adult novel, This Train is Being Held, won the gold medal for the International Latino Book Awards. So I'm very excited. That happened over the weekend. So hi, everybody. Again, my name is Ismae Williams. I feel like my bio sort of told you all about me. So I'm somebody who came kind of late to the writing game. I always wanted to be a doctor growing up because my Cuban abuelito was a doctor in Cuba. And when they fled, he had to go back to school and do his residency again, even though he was in his 50s. And it took him a very long time to do that because and they lived with us growing up. And then my mother went to medical school in the 1970s, which was also very hard for her. So I feel like I grew up with these role models of people who sacrificed so much to be doctors, and they were so happy to be doctors. So I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. So I went and I did that. I just went straight through, became a doctor. And it wasn't until I was in my 30s and I was on bed rest with my 3rd child that I picked up a book that happened to be a young adult novel because I was put on bed rest and I had nothing else to do. And I literally had not read a fiction novel for about 11 years. And this book completely changed my life. It just sort of punched a hole in this wall that I'd built up around myself to allow me to be a physician, right? I felt like I'd built this emotional wall because a lot of my patients are babies and children, and some of them died. It was really, really difficult. And I wasn't letting anything in. And then, but this book just, I don't know, reached in, grabbed my heart, squeezed it. And I was like, oh, I remember what that feels like. And I was so thankful to that book and to that author. And I thought, I would like to try to do that. I would like to try to write something that allows the reader to have to feel these intense emotions in a safe space. And so my first novel actually came out in 2017, Water in May. It is based off of my own experience working in Washington Heights and taking care of a lot of young pregnant mothers whose babies had congenital heart disease. And so Water in May is about a 15-year-old Dominican-American girl named Mari who wants more than anything to have a baby. So someone in her family will finally love her because her papi's in jail. Her mother abandoned her. She's being raised by her abuelita, who's a little bit resentful about having to raise another child. And so Mari is thrilled to find out that she's having a baby because she thinks this baby is going to love her. And then the doctors tell her her baby has only half a heart. So that is that book. And I get to that last line and people are like, oh man, I don't want to read that. It's like, sounds super depressing. It's very realistic. And it's, I have obviously a lot of pediatric cardiology colleagues who say that they've made it required reading for the fellows in their program because it's from the point of view of the patient, but it's a coming of age story. It's about a young woman who's actually has to find her inner power and inner strength to do the right thing. So that was that book. And now for something totally different. This train is being held is a New York City subway romance. There's nothing in here about medicine or heart disease or anything. My agent said, you cannot write another medical book because you can in the future, but your second book has to have nothing to do with being a pediatric cardiologist because you don't want to be typecast. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And I love romance. One of the books that I read that sort of got me on got me bitten by the writing bug was a young adult romance. And so this story it wasn't my intention, but it's been likened to a modern day retelling of West Side Story, where both characters are Latinx. So it's Alex is Dominican American living in Washington Heights. He wants more than anything. He's a baseball prodigy, and his papi wants more than anything for him to go pro. But Alex maybe wants to be a poet, but he can't actually share that with papi because papi wouldn't understand, nor would he allow it. And then we have Isa, who's Upper East Side private school girl, who wants more than anything to become a professional ballerina, but her Havana-born mother thinks that is an unacceptable career choice for a modern woman. And also she doesn't want her daughter dating Latinos. So they happen to meet on the subway, and it's their story over the next sort of 15 months. But it's not just all happy, fluffy romance, because I feel like I'm drawn to, like, again, these like intense life experiences and emotions. So trigger warnings. There is also mental illness. It deals with racism, classism, colorism, and police brutality. So yeah, those are my books. And I don't know, what else can I tell you about me? I still see patients. I work in the Bronx now. Most of my patients are immigrants. Not all of them are Spanish speaking. And so I deal with a lot of translators. So that's fun. And I feel extremely blessed that I get to do writing and I get to do my medical stuff. Oh, and the last thing I will mention is that I'm also one of the co-founders of the Latinx Kidlit Book Festival, which will be in December. And you can find our website, and that's targeting educators and students everywhere. So thank you guys. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Ismee, for that introduction. And we're going to get back to you a little bit more about that in the discussion. Let me go ahead and introduce our next presenter. That will be Sandy Rodriguez. Allow me to share my screen.
Next presenter, Sandy Rodriguez.
Sorry about that.
Our next presenter, Sandy Rodriguez. She's a bilingual communications expert who writes on topics ranging from finance to entertainment for different media outlets in both the US and Mexico. Former editorial coordinator for Reforma, one of the most influential publications in Latin America, and has translated tens of books from English to Spanish for major publishing houses. Her motivational book, Choose to Prevail, received the gold medal in the International Latino Book Awards 2021, as well as the 2021 Reader's Favorite Silver Medal winner. Sandy took part in a prestigious fellowship program for international journalists at Seoul National University in South Korea. She currently lives in Los Angeles, where she works as a certified court interpreter. She's the editor of Heart of Hollywood magazine, as well as a fitness enthusiast, a bourgeois artist, and an amateur winemaker.
Hi, thank you, Anna, for that lovely introduction. My name is Sandra Rodriguez, but my friends call me Sandy. So when I wrote my book, Choose to Prevail, I decided to do it as Sandy because I really did want the reader to feel like they were speaking with a friend. In fact, I've been delighted to see that a lot of readers say that the experience of reading Choose to Prevail is akin to sitting down to a cup of coffee or a glass of wine with a very supportive friend, because the purpose of this book, which is a nonfiction book, in fact, it won the Best Health and Wellness Book Award within the International Latino Book Awards very recently. Thank you. Well, the intention that I had, or the purpose that I had in writing this book, is having the reader walk away feeling more self-confident, more accepting of oneself, and also with more faith in the future. And I believe that's what it accomplishes. It's a short read. It's not a book that will take people many, many weeks to complete. It's a book that is meant to be read over the course of an afternoon or a couple of days, and just feel like an infusion of self-confidence, an infusion of, the knowledge that everything will be okay. There's a saying that says everything will be okay in the end, and if it's not the end. And that is one of the many messages that the book strives to share with the reader. Now, let me tell you a little bit about myself. After that beautiful introduction from Anna, you can see that I'm definitely not new to writing. In fact, my very first writing job was at age 12. I was at that time living in Mexico City, and I was hired by a magazine called Young People Today to be their Mexico City correspondent. So it was very fascinating. I was able to firstly get paid, which what 12-year-old doesn't enjoy. And also I got to meet several let's say celebrities that were very popular with teenagers at the time and children. So to me, that was very glamorous. And eventually, as an adult, I also became an editorial coordinator for a major newspaper. And basically, even though I tried to escape the world of writing chases after me. And no matter how much I try to stray from that path, like I do now, when I'm basically a court interpreter, that is my, let's say, my full-time job. I am still writing. I was tapped to be the editor of an entertainment magazine called Heart of Hollywood magazine, so I do that. I also often do copywriting, ghostwriting, all kinds of writing. There's just no escaping that for me, but it's fine because I love it. And I was very, very happy that Choose to Prevail was successful enough that now in a couple of weeks, well, no, not really, in early December, video series based on Choose to Prevail will be launched. I will be speaking with people from all walks of life that have overcome big challenges, and that includes, I mean, the people that I met, they're just awesome. Right now, because this is a Latino festival, I want to mention one of our guests. One of them will be this very popular wrestler in Mexico. He hails from Canada, but he really became a legend in Mexico City. His name is Vampiro, or Vampiro Canadiense. We're going to be interviewing him and a number of very, very interesting people, both Latino and non-Latino, but it's just going to be something very exciting. My book, Choose to Prevail, is available pretty much anywhere. You can simply Google Choose to Prevail by Sandy Rodriguez, and you can find it on places such as big box stores, certainly Amazon, also indie bookstores. I've even seen it in eBay Australia. And that's something that brings me to the last thing that I wanted to mention, which is this. I think that this is the right time for Latino authors to share their stories with the world. But here's the thing, you don't need to be a Latino to appreciate a story written by a Latino author or featuring a Latino main character, because in the end, we're all people. We all, when we cut, do we not bleed? I mean, basically, we're all the same under the skin, regardless of background or country of origin or language we might prefer. And that is part of the situation that I try to transmit with Choose to Prevail. It's not written with a specific demographic in mind. It has also been well regarded by non-Latino festivals. I won a silver medal for the Reader's Favorite Award. It was also very well reviewed by the Midwest Book Review, and you can't get any less Latino than that. But the reality is that book publishers need to consider that Latino created literature really does have a place in mainstream America. And while I'm extremely happy that this festival is just so Latino focused and meeting all of these wonderful Latino readers, that's very exciting to me. But I do want to say that our voices must be heard not only by us, but by all. So thank you so much for the invitation. And well, that would be all for now.
Well, thank you for accepting to be here and spending this little bit of time with us. And yeah, I mean, what you're saying is really true. Reading other people's stories, getting other people's perspectives, that's what enriches all. All right, let's go ahead with our next presenter, and that is Susannah, I'm sorry. Let me go ahead.
Our next presenter, Susana Rodriguez Drizzy, is an award-winning writer, poet, playwright, translator, and scholar. Her poetry, prose, and academic papers have appeared or are forthcoming in numerous journals and anthologies, such as In Season, Stories of Discovery, Loss, Home, and Places in Between, which won the 2018 Florida Book Award, Publishers Weekly, the Los Angeles Review of Books, Miami Herald, Literal Magazine, Diario de Cuba, among many others. Author of the Latin Poet's Guide to the Cosmos and Rey en Athena, a bilingual edition. She is on the faculty of the writing programs at the University of California, Los Angeles. Her novel, Until We Are Fish, received gold medal in the International Latino Book Awards and a Nautilus Book Award winner. Until We Are Fish has also been nominated for the National Book Awards, the National Book Critics Circle Award, the PEN Open Book Award, and PEN Hemingway Book Award for debut novels.
All right. Susana Rodriguez, welcome to this session. Can you share us your story?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Anna, for the wonderful introduction. I am, as Anna said, the author of the novel Until We're Fish, which won the Nautilus Book Award in fiction, and also more recently, this weekend actually, gold medal in historical fiction for best historical fiction in the International Latino Book Awards. I'm extremely happy to be here sharing both the story of how I became a writer and also what the story of this novel is actually about, a novel that is extremely close to my heart and took many years to sort of pull together, both from my emotional vault and also a physical vault that I have in my office, where I keep all the things that I have written over the years. So first, a little bit about myself. So as Anna mentioned, I'm also an academic, a Cuba scholar. I have a PhD in comparative literature, and I now teach. I've been teaching for many years at UCLA in writing programs. So I actually teach writing to my beautiful students. We're back in person, so I'm very excited about that. And I have been writing for a very long time, and if not necessarily writing, then it's somehow preparing to write. I started off really as an artist, and actually, let me go back a little bit. So I was born in Cuba. I came to the US when I was 12 and a half. So preparing to write really meant that I had to learn English first, at least to write in English. So there was a long period of sort of incubation for me in terms of writing. I had to, it was important to me to write in English because the story that I wanted to tell was really meant for people who didn't know my story or our story, where we came from, and what it took to get here. And those people spoke English generally. The people who spoke Spanish and the people who were around me really knew what it was like to experience what I had experienced. And so it took a while. I was able, I think, more or less master English enough to start writing poetry. And I started writing poetry at 17. I had a horrible heartbreak, and I think that alone was enough for me to start writing. And I wrote, my first poem was called Iphigenia, and it had some kind of Greek mythological theme to it. I was very much into the Iliad and the Odyssey at the time, and had a wonderful AP teacher who introduced me to those things. And so poetry really was the thing that I did and how I expressed myself for many years. And it continues to be really the foundation to anything I write. I think image is extremely important to me, and anyone who reads what I write, I think will go away feeling like if anything, I have sort of infused them with imagery, and so, and rhythm as well. You know, rhythm and flow. I like to read my work out loud and ensure that things have rhythm. I tell this to my students all the time, even though it's not poetry per se. And so I went from being an artist, because I started really writing with colors and pencils and telling a story that way, and went into college at a very early age, thinking that I was going to be either a designer or a fine artist. And, you know, again, when 17 happened, it changed my life. That heartbreak changed my life. And that poem too. From that point forward, it became clear to me that this was something that I needed, and that I had suddenly become obsessed with. So all I thought about was writing. And I had a moment, I think, in my transition between the late teens and early 20s, where I locked myself in this little room my dad had built for me, a sort of studio in the garage, and decided that I was going to write so many sonnets, you know, and they were perfect sonnets. I mean, it took me days to really get that iambic pentameter just right, and those images just right. And it was a lesson, I think, in discipline for me, a lesson in, again, that underlying rhythm that everything we write has, whether it's a journalistic piece or poetry, right? And so that I think I've taken along all the way to the novel today. And of course, I write academic papers, I write plays, I like translation work as well, in particular literary translation, and I'm working on something at the moment. And so, you know, writing has been really a lifesaver for me. I have kids, and when I had kids, writing schedule changed. That meant that, you know, I couldn't write at all hours. So I started writing very, very early in the morning before everyone woke up, and I would have, you know, huge chunks of the morning to write before, you know, the new babies would start crying or the kids needed to go to school. And so, you know, the kids are still around. I haven't gotten rid of them yet. And so, you know, that continues to be my schedule, but I've become very flexible in terms of, and very practical in terms of my writing. I don't require a special place. I will write anywhere at any time. Any opportunity I have, I'll write on a piece of paper, on the back of my hand, in the phone, in the notes, whatever it is. And also when I have to. So I'm very disciplined. So, you know, it's not about waiting for inspiration to strike, right? After a while, you need to sit down and be able to produce something. Not everything will be magical. but it will be done. And so, you know, magical can come later. For this novel, it was a novel that started as a short story. The short story was published, and it was a short story that now is the end of the novel. And so what I did, I wrote backwards. How did these people get here? And I had to find my way back. The novel is called Until We're Fish. In talking to Sandy early on, she liked the title. There's a lot about the title, a lot of fish imagery, a lot of water imagery. The novel takes place in Cuba, starts in 1959, and it goes all the way to 1995, what's known as the special period in times of peace, a euphemism used to describe sort of the dwindling economic conditions that that took place for Cuba after the collapse of the Soviet bloc. And it follows Elio, a teenager. It's at first, when you read the novel, it may seem as a coming of age story, but I take it all the way back to Elio's 50s. And so he starts as a 13-year-old at the very beginning of the Cuban Revolution, on the day really that Castro marches into Havana. And this is a kid who's obsessed with two things and two things only: an American bike that he's seen in a window of a Sears store, a Schwinn called a Panther II, and Maria, his blonde, vivacious next door neighbor. And getting these two things will be really the bulk of the novel. Many things get in the way. His father leaves to Chicago at the beginning of the Cuban Revolution, and the Cuban Revolution happens. And so, you know, it's an interesting story because Elio has a lot of conflicts dealing with his father, dealing with what he doesn't get, what he does end up getting. And I don't think I'm spoiling anything. He ends up getting Maria, and we follow these two young people as they age, and as their lives begin to parallel sort of the ups and downs, more downs than up, of the Cuban Revolution, and how these historical forces have impacted these two individual lives. There's a lot of sadness, I think, in the novel. A lot of cruel realities. It's important to me in the sense that I think now more than ever, Cuban voices need to be upheld and need to be amplified. And so, you know, it's a story that it could be nonfiction, in particular, because a lot of what I lived through, a lot of what my family lived through is in the novel, in particular, in the late 70s. And so, you know, I think for some people it may feel a little bit too real, too close to home. But I think we have a responsibility to tell things as they are, and not necessarily as we want them to be. So there is no romantic view of Cuba here, in the least. I think, on the contrary, and as opposed to other Cuban American fiction, I don't focus on what was left behind. I focus on the average Cuban citizen who had nothing to begin with and ended up with nothing. So this is not someone who had and had things taken away from them. It's the little people for whom the revolution was made, and for, you know, at the end, for whom the revolution was a failure. So that's it. I hope you read it. If you have any more questions, we're here to answer those questions. I like to second Sandra's or Sandy's call for an opening of Latino Latinx literature as well as American literature, but very thankful for this opportunity.
All right. Thank you, Susannah, for sharing that, and thank you for sharing the fact that we have to say, telling the books the reality of the true journey, the true stories, because that's what you want to share at the end of the day. Okay, Dr. Gonzalez-Perez, we're gonna go with you next. if that's okay. Let me go ahead and introduce you.
Okay.
Dr. Alma González Pérez, a literacy advocate and an award-winning author of 7 books, among them the bestseller and the International Latino Book Awards 2017 winner Todos a Comer, a Mexican food alphabet book, and the 2020 winner of ILBA's Todos al Rodeo, a Vaqueros alphabet book. Todos al Rodeo has also received the Pablita Velarde Book Award for an outstanding children's publication by the Historical Society of the New Mexico, recognition as a Skipping Stones Honor Book, and a Campoy Ada Honor Book by the North American Academy of the Spanish Language. Dr. Perez dedicated 40 years to the field of education in the public schools and the university level. She now enjoys writing children's bilingual books, Spanish poetry, and local history, as well as sharing her work with children, parents, and educators to meet the biliteracy challenges of the Hispanic learner in the United States.
Welcome, Dr. Maria Alma González Pérez. Can you share us a little bit about yourself and your stories?
Yes, certainly. As part of my introduction mentioned, about my dedicating 40 years to education, and of course, education and of course languages have been my my profession, but also my life and my passion. So I was an English teacher at the high school, and I was also a Spanish teacher. So I kept going back and forth with the 2 languages because, they give you 2 classes in English, 2 in Spanish, or vice versa, and like that. And of course, I gained a great deal of experience and proficiency, working with the 2 languages. And of course, I'm working on a biliteracy handbook for teachers because, again, as we manipulate 2 languages, there's very interesting differences and similarities, between the 2 languages. In any case, I pretty much spent my whole career helping students write and improve their writing. But somehow in the middle of all these papers I had to grade all the time, there was little time for me to write. And of course, I had a lot of stuff, in the back burner. As I had a little opportunity, I started working on it. My first book that, in connection to that, my first book that I was yearning to write, or rather the book was yearning to be written, is a collection of Spanish poetry called Cantos del Alma y del Corazón. It won Best Use of Pictures 2017. This is mostly a young adult or adult collection of poems on different subjects, like family and like culture and the family culture, and of course the final goodbye, a la despedida final. This, I call it the best book, or rather the most special book I'll ever write, simply because after my mother passed away, I was very close to her, of course, and it really affected more than I really thought, And so in my, in the midst of my tears and crying, I don't know, all of a sudden, I started getting ideas for poems, and I would wake up at 11:30 or 1:30 or 2:30, whatever time, with an idea for a poem. I thought it was just so surreal, And so I mentioned that in my book, of course, about that, and many poems I used and many I didn't, of course, but it was certainly very therapeutical for me at that particular time in my life. And so that's why I call it the most special book I'll ever write, because I feel like the spirit of my mother is in it. This is, like I say, a guide for teachers. Teachers can use it in their classrooms, and it has, additional supplementary material. However, the collection that I'm most proud of is, of course, my Todos collection, with the first one, of course, the Todos a Comer, where I have my collection of bilingual alphabet books, where I started with just playing around, I taught Spanish composition at the university level, and we added a little bit of creative writing to it, and started, working with ABC books. We would do an ABC book for Valentine's, for instance, or for Dia de los Muertos, and they would, write about somebody in their family. So we started experimenting with ABC books, and I started, taking my notes, because as Susana mentioned a minute ago, I also write everywhere. I have notes everywhere, and even business cards sometimes I use, or the stubs from tickets, so the tickets raffles that I that I buy, I'll write notes there if I don't have anything else. Of course, now I write a great deal on my phone as well. So I started experimenting with this Todos a Comer, a Mexican alphabet book, and I was so excited about the idea. But when I first shared it with people, they kind of felt like, like it was a little weird or a little crazy for me to be thinking about that topic. Well, it was a little bummer at the beginning, but as writers, we have to understand that we, more than anybody else, knows where we're going with our subject, And then, of course, I would also tell myself, well, they don't know about what I know about literature and writing, but they do. They don't know what I know, so forget about it. And so, yeah, it became the bestseller. It's sold so much across the country, and of course, it was the best Latino, voted the best Latino focus picture book for 2017. So I said, well, I think we should develop a series. So my second book is Todos a Celebrar, a Hispanic customs and traditions alphabet book. So now on this book, I don't only concentrate on what is Mexican, but more Hispanic, including all the different customs and traditions from different countries. And of course, this has also, it did not win Best Latino Focus Picture Book with the International Latino Book Awards, but it has won other awards. And of course, it's a very useful book because it deals with different traditions like la bendición, cascarones, and of course, la serenata, la piñata, and so forth. And of course, we use, the nice thing about this book is that we used real kids in the setting, of course, with parental permission, So kids, that's another thing in terms of producing culturally relevant literature, is that children see children like themselves, in the literature. So the colorful photos, of course, help enhance the meaning, and of course, brings a breath of fresh air to our young kids and children alike. And then, of course, the third one is the Todos al Rodeo. Well, those of us that know about the ranching industry, we understand that, of course, it was the Spaniards that brought cows and horses, among them the longhorn, to America. And therefore, all the terminology is originally in Spanish, like vaquero and lazo and rodeo and all this. So this is the main objective of the book, to show children how all these words went into English through linguistic borrowing and through the necessity of, it's just like with computer technology, so much computer technology cannot be translated because that's just what it is, it doesn't exist in other languages. And so this too involved a lot of all those concepts, and of course enhanced by the photos of children. Children, of course, in here I had to be a little bit more careful because, of course, I did not want to expose, horses and cows are very powerful animals. They're beautiful animals, but then they can hurt a child. So I was not going to put a child in danger because of, the situation. So I mostly chose children that did have, horses and that were familiar with horses and cows and so forth, and so we went out to the ranches where they had their ponies or where they had their cattle and took the different photos for the different concepts. We had a lot of fun with this one as well. And of course, this book is a dedication to the vaquero of all times, And of course, I chose a gentleman that is the lifelong vaquero and a diehard cowboy. So this is my collection. Very proud of it. Of course, I thought I was going to end it there, but of course, I need a Christmas book.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing all that information, Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
it's really good that you mentioned the fact that, you know, when you're writing something, you write it in small pieces, small short stories every once in a while. And then when you are finishing your book, you just put together all those stories in chronological order. And there's how you have the whole journey completed.
Exactly.
All right. So let's go with our fifth presenter for today. That is Cecilia Aragon. Let me go ahead and introduce Cecilia.
Our next presenter, Cecilia Aragon, is an award-winning author, air show pilot, and first Latina full professor in the College of Engineering at the University of Washington in Seattle. She co-authored Writers in the Secret Garden, has worked with Nobel Prize winners, taught astronauts to fly, and created musical simulations of the universe with rock stars. Her major awards for research and a stint at NASA designed software for Mars missions led President Obama to call her one of the top scientists and engineers in the country. Winner of the 2021 Nancy Perrault Award, her memoir Flying Free, My Victory Over Fear to Become the First Latina Pilot on the U.S. Aerobatic Team, was described by Kirkus as a message of inspiration for those seeking to break free. Flying Free leads readers into the skies on a woman's exhilarating journey from fearful, bullied daughter of immigrants to champion pilot. More information at CeciliaAragonAuthor.com.
There you go. Welcome, Cecilia, and we're very happy to have you here with us today. Can you share us your story? Oh, you are on mute there. There you go.
So thank you very much, Anna, for having me here, and thanks to the Latina Book and Family Festival for inviting me, and of course to the International Latino Book Awards for honoring my book, Flying Free, which I just found out this weekend. It won the gold medal for most inspiring book. And that was a huge thrill for me. So thank you so much. So this book is the memoir that I wrote for 12-year-old me. I thought that I would never succeed at anything, that I was pretty hopeless, actually. I was really the last person anybody thought would do anything exciting. I actually, ended up flying upside down and in air shows in front of millions of people. And I was scared of ladders. I was scared of heights. And so people thought of me as this very gray and colorless person growing up in this small town in the Midwest. And I knew even then as a child that I couldn't live this way, but I had no idea how to get out. So my parents are immigrants. They came to the US as adults, and they spoke with thick accents. In Indiana, that was, not very common. We were really one of the very few Latino families in the community. And as a result, we experienced a great deal of negative experiences. For example, at the beginning of every school year, I was always placed in the slow reading group. And when I once wrote an essay, I loved writing. When I wrote my first book when I was 4, but when I wrote an essay that I was really proud of, my teacher accused me of plagiarism. She said, someone like you couldn't possibly know all those big words. And, it was the same thing, right? My parents put an offer on a house in what was considered a good neighborhood, and it was taken off the market. So, growing up with experiences like this, it's not that people were trying to be cruel. They didn't think they were racist. They didn't think that they were harming a child. But imagine the feelings that a young child grows up with when the adults around her make these sort of comments. It's kind of malnourishment, really. And that malnourishment can be carried with you, and it can lead to imposter syndrome when you grow up. And it's adults impact children with these unconscious messages, and they may not realize it. So you know what, though, even though I got all these negative messages, I was still able to fight them off later in my life. So how did I do it? Well, this book is all about that story. And it turns out that all you really need is one person early on in your life that silences those low expectations imposed on you by everyone else and proves to you that you can soar. Mine was so powerful that I ended up literally soaring as an aerobatic pilot, in addition to becoming a scientist. And that person was my dad. My dad always believed in me. He always told me, "You're brilliant, Cecilia." Of course, I didn't believe him, right? And it's just, parents love you. And, you know, so he pushed me to reach my full potential. Whenever I was going to give up, or I said, well, this math problem is really hard, he would say, "You can do it. Just keep trying." And I really believe now, I mean, so I have to say, I was really excited to see all these really talented women on this group, that so many of you have PhDs and are doctors. I got a PhD too, and it was really hard. So I know what you have accomplished by going through and getting those degrees. And it wasn't so much what happened outside me, it was my own lack of self-confidence that I grew up with because of, you know, this toxicity from my teachers and my classmates and the bullying that I experienced growing up. But I believe now that every adult can be this lifeline for a young child. And this is why I became a professor. I'm now at the University of Washington, and I'm passionate about helping young people, you know, from underrepresented groups and women to succeed in science, technology, engineering, and math, because I think it's kind of a magic trick to help people who may have been discriminated against to fight back and prove that they can do anything they want. So I was really lucky because my father always believed in me. You know, some people don't have a dad. They don't have that privilege of having a parent who believes in you and who loves you. There was never any doubt in my father's mind that I would be a success. And that was enough to counteract the dozens of people who had low expectations. So today, as a professor, I really try to be that voice of support for young people growing up today, because I want to be, it only takes one, and I want to be that one, and anybody else really can be that one for a neighbor or a child or a friend. You can reach out to them. And this is true, not just, as others have said, I mean, it's not just for Latinos, it can be for anyone who is, you know, for whatever reason, they're a child growing up and they're not receiving the nourishment that they should from the world around them. And so I wrote that book for the 12-year-old me and for all the other young people, whether they're 12 or whether they're in their 20s or whether they're in their 70s, anybody who feels that they have experienced negativity and wants to fly free. Now, so the story I tell in the book is about how I overcame my fears by learning how to fly and to fly in a small airplane. And people will say, why that? I mean, that's way too scary. And I said, yeah, that's exactly what I believed when I started out. I mean, I was scared of heights. Why would I ever want to fly in a small airplane? It's dangerous. I might die. But you know what? By facing my fear in that and doing something that was just terrifying to me, it gave me the courage to do so many other things. And it was after I learned how to fly that I was able to go back and return to school where I had dropped out because I thought I wasn't smart enough. Flying, you know, gave me that courage because I could point the airplane straight at the ground at 250 miles an hour and wait. And if you can do that, you can do anything. So people don't really need to learn how to fly a small airplane to achieve their goals. But I think it's important to take on something that is a challenge, to not allow yourself to say, well, I'm not suited for that. I'm suited for a quiet life. My personality isn't good enough for that. So that's why I wrote the book, and people, I've been really surprised at the recognition it's gotten. It was on 5 bestseller lists when it first came out, and I not only won this wonderful gold medal from the International Latino Book Awards, but I also won the 2021 Nancy Pearl Award that was judged by librarians, and librarians really felt that it was the best memoir they had read for the year, and that was very exciting. So I hope they will share the book in their libraries, because I know librarians meant a lot to me as a child. So yeah, and the book is it's not preachy. It's not, about, it's not really full of cliches. It's kind of an adventure story, and you don't need to know anything about flying to have fun reading it. And people have told me, oh yeah, I never want to fly, but you know what? After reading your book, I thought maybe I would try to do it. So yeah, so just anything that, if it encourages a few people to, do something that they were afraid of, or to break free of the stereotypes, then I'll feel really happy about it. And that people can have fun reading it at the same time. So thank you again so very much for having me here. I feel really honored to be in this very august company of authors. You are amazing. I want to read all your books.
Well, thank you, Cecilia, for being that inspiration for a lot of young people, because a lot of people do go through this hard life early in life, and that's what shapes them once as an adult. And so at this point, I'm gonna open up for conversation, discussion, and even the presenters here today can comment on each other's work. Let me check the chat. I hear in the chat a lot about this, that the list of books for everybody has suddenly grew up. So, okay, great reads today here. It's an honor to hear from all of you, very talented writers. That's from Alma Lazar. It's an honor to, let me see, Cecilia, can't wait to read your book. Okay, Sandy's appealing personality permeates her book, Choose to Prevail. Recommended. There we go. Welcome everybody who's watching us here. And so I want to say that thank you all for being here. We are already to the hour, and I was not expecting to not have enough time for conversation. But if you all still have a little bit of time, we can still stay here. Yes, Sandra?
Thank you. Yes, I wanted to mention something that really strikes me as interesting. I see that all of the women in the group are either in academia or in education or in STEM or in journalism, or they have a PhD. So I think this is very interesting on many levels. Firstly, sometimes the perception of the personality type of a person that is in these fields is they're not creative, they don't have a sense of humor, they're very dull, they're very serious. Well, we have a pilot. We have all of these wonderful, wonderful authors that are doing exciting things, creative things, the rodeo situation, all of their experiences in moving from one place to another. Well, so that's one thing that I think is very exciting, and it does away with one stereotype. And the other thing that I really wanted to mention is this. I've heard a saying, which is, if you have something that you need to do and you need it done fast and well, give it to an extremely busy person, because that person knows how to actually do the thing and get it done quickly. I loved what Susannah was saying about not hanging around and waiting for the muse, because when you do that as a writer, Well, you might never actually become a published writer because you will never have a completed manuscript. You really need to go from idea to execution. And that is something that I think that we, because of our fields and our personality types, we actually get it done. So I think that that's something that might be of interest as an insight for people that are watching us, because I do know that many readers are also people that would enjoy becoming a writer eventually. So I think that a good message to anybody that is watching us, that is an avid reader, that, you know, that they love books and they also want to become the creator of a book eventually, is not wait. I mean, don't overthink it. I mean, you might be busy, but I cannot imagine that you might be busier than our friends here on the panel. Look at the things that they're doing. They're performing heart surgery. I mean, look, if they have time, you have time. So that's something that I did want to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Susannah?
Yeah, I wanted to add to that, definitely. I think there's a misconception about how you become something. You know, we're so used to this idea of the overnight success, you know, that we forget that to get there, it takes a very long time and a very long process, a lot of hard work, a lot of failure, also a lot of small successes, you know, in small doses. So waking up every morning and writing for 20 minutes if you want to become a writer, and 20 minutes is all you have. Well, at the end of several months of 20 minutes a day, you begin to have sort of a hefty little manuscript in your hands that is absolutely not going to be, it's not going to be perfect in any way. And, you know, striving for perfection is its own set of problems. But you know, something that you can work with. I even, you know, I tell my students, you know, nothing scarier than a blank page. So put something on that page and work with, you know, work with what you have and take care of it, you know, trim it, grow it, do what you need to do in the way you take care of a plant, you know, and eventually you'll have something. But yeah, if you know, like Sandy said, if you don't have a lot of time, none of us have a lot of time. And I think, you know, part of what we have experienced in our society is that we're all running out of time all the time. But a few minutes a day for that one thing that you want to do is possible for anyone.
That is very true. That is very true. And so in our journeys, we all go through different aspects. Like, first of all, in your case, Susannah, you mentioned that, you know, you had to learn the language first and then before becoming a writer. So there's all kinds of things that we have to go through life, with our families. A lot of you mentioned the fact that you, in your books, you're describing the realities of, you know, could be mental health issues, could be just family problems, things that we all go through. But despite that, we still have to continue. And it's just a journey. We all have to go through that journey. And I like the way that it was who was it? One of you, when you mentioned the fact that, you know, you just have to, if you at the end, you're gonna reach to a point where you're gonna feel that things are okay. And so once you reach that, then that's when, I mean, we all gonna end up reaching to that point. And I think that, well, I'm not sure, but I feel that for all of you right now today, you, at this point, you went through those hard obstacles or hard circumstances or life difficulties. And now you are to a point where you're able to enjoy, you're able to tell the stories, and you're able to share your learnings with others in a way that you can inspire them, you can provide them with things to learn, things to do, things to advise other people on. And I really like that. I really enjoy the fact that, you know, through your books, we can get a little piece of your life, a little sense of who you are as a person. And so I'm very thankful for all of you for being here. Dr. Alma Gonzalez, do you want to add something?
Well, a combination of everything. I'm certainly was inspired so much by hearing all this beautiful stories and wonderful work by everyone. I'm sorry I couldn't get my video working, and I apologize for my technical difficulties. But nonetheless, I saw all this. I'm seeing all these beautiful ladies and praising your work. And many of you mentioned there that you want to get the books, everybody else's books. Well, so do I. So do I. My lifelong interest, of course, in language and literature. I admire everybody's journey and story, and again, I corroborate what has been said before, that, you don't have to be a writer to write, that everyone can write. And this is one of the things that I would always encourage my students, because, writing is universal. It's our voice. It's our way of communicating whatever it is that we need to and want to communicate to the world. I admire Cecilia again, her field, of course, of an amazing field. And of course, Dr. Williams and Susannah, and of course, Sandra, all of you. And of course, I appreciate you, Anna, for hosting this event, and appreciate this window of opportunity for us to come together today.
Well, I hope we could go a little bit. Well, actually, yeah, let's go ahead and share. Everybody, if you could just go ahead and share a little bit of where can people find you, when can people connect with you, and where can they basically find your books? Do you is it on your website or Amazon? Let's go with Susannah. Would you like to share first?
Sure. So you can find my books on BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon, of course, the wonderful independent press, Purchase Press as well. I'm on Instagram under Susannah Drizzy. I'm on Twitter under RS Drizzy or Dr. Drizzy. And then my website, which is a little wonky right now, I decided to sort of start acting up, but it's www.susannahrodriguezdrizzy.com. And there you can find about me, and there's a lot about my plays there, a musical that is forthcoming called Nocturno, that I wrote a couple years ago and was due to premiere during the pandemic, before we knew there was going to be a pandemic, and so we're still working on that. So and of course you can find me at UCLA on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm on campus. Finally.
All right. Sounds great. And yeah, and everybody's posting them in the chat right now. And so Sandy, can you share us where can people find you?
Wait. Yes, absolutely. It's very easy for us to connect. All you need to do is go on Instagram and find me at Choose to Prevail, the title of the book, at Choose to Prevail on Instagram. If you would like to buy a copy of the book, it's available pretty much anywhere that you go online, Amazon, or if you prefer Walmart.com or BarnesandNoble.com, or if you prefer to support a more indie type of let's say, retail channel, that can be done through the Book Baby bookstore. That's another possibility. And if anybody would care to not only read this book, which is like a quick infusion, non-cheesy infusion of self-confidence and just overall well-being. If you don't only want to read the book, but you also want to check out the video series, that is also quite easy. Please go to a website called www.heartofhollywoodmagazine.com. Once again, that is heartofhollywoodmagazine.com, and you will find information about the video series inspired by the book. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and lovely to meet everyone.
All right. Yeah, let's go. Ismee?
Sure. Luckily, my first name is so unusual. Like basically everything is just my name. So it's ismaewilliams.com and I'm at Ismae Williams on Instagram and Twitter. Williams is my husband's name because my mother was the other doctor with my maiden name. So in our family, but there are no doctors in my husband's family. But yes, and my books are published by Abrams Books, Amulet Books, so they can be purchased wherever books are found, Amazon, online, indie bookstores, also at libraries. I mean, I don't think we talk about this enough, but you can go into any library and request the book, and that's also super helpful for authors. And you don't need to have the $14.99 to actually buy my book. You could just get it at the library too.
That's right. And actually that's a way for other people to access the book as well, all the library users. All right, Cecilia?
So yeah, so thanks, Ismee. That's in my book is published by Blackstone Publishing, which is actually the world's largest independent audiobook publisher. So it's available everywhere. I mean, in independent bookstores and on the big box stores. And it's available in audiobook, hardback, paperback, and ebook. So you pretty much just search my name and Flying Free, and you can find it, or go to your local bookstore and request it. It's on all the standard distribution lists. And as Ismee says, the libraries are, I always like to support libraries, and you can go to any library and request it. And it's available. It's in the catalogs. So I put Cecilia Aragon author, my website, up in the chat. And I also if you want to see all my links, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everything, I have a link tree, and that's linktr.ee/Cecilia Aragon. And I'll put that in the chat as well too. And that's just a list of all my links if you're interested in that.
Wonderful. Yes.
You can even get a signed copy from my local independent bookstore. And they're so kind that they let me. What they do is if you click on that and you buy it through them, they'll call me up and then I go over and sign the book and I can personalize it.
Oh, wow.
So I encourage everybody to support your local independent bookstore and do that as well too. It's a lot of fun.
That's a great idea.
True. Yes. Dr. Gonzalez-Perez, where can people find you?
Yes, my books are available through Del Alma, Del, D-E-L, and then Alma, my middle name, Del Alma Publications. And it is best to go through there simply because you get an opportunity to see all the different books. And of course, we have a blog post, and we have a lot of information. I failed to mention that on the series of bilingual alphabet books, they come with teacher guides or worksheets that can be downloaded by parents or by teachers or professors of education, helping young teachers get ideas for their classes and for their lessons. So yes, delalmapublications.com. And of course, they're available through Amazon as well. However, through the Alma Publications, you can get bulk orders if you want to donate books or gift books to children in your lives. And also, of course, you get them autographed as well through the website, not through Amazon, of course. And of course, there's for the schools, Broad Art and other distributors of material to the schools and to libraries as well. But your best bet is through the Alma Publications as of all this extra material that I like for people to see that is available.
Well, thank you for sharing, and thank you everybody. I was very happy to be here with all of you today, sharing this space, and I mean, I would say that I hope you can all join us next time, but it just depends on schedule. Okay, at this point, we're gonna go ahead and close our session. Any last comments from anybody?
I have one last comment. And this is for Ismee. I didn't get a chance to say it before. I'm actually teaching, I've been doing so for the last couple of years, a class on medical humanities. And so we talk a lot about doctors who are also writers like Anton Chekhov or William Carlos Williams. So it might be wonderful to have you via Zoom if you're open to it. Maybe I'll reach out.
I love it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And you can talk about, the overlap. I talk about, storytelling in the doctor-patient relationships and that kind of thing and what that may mean. So you're invited.
Oh, thank you. I'd be very honored to join.
Okay, sounds good. I'll reach out.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And I enjoyed this session. Hope you all did too.
Now I have to go read because I'm literally buying all your books. Like,
Yes, absolutely.
You got some homework there. All right. Thank you, everybody. And I want to also take a moment to thank our supporters and partners to make this, because they are making this space possible. I really enjoy having this space for the community and having authors come and share their experiences. For anybody that's interested in viewing prior presentations, you can always go to our website at lbff.us. And also you can follow us on Facebook at Latino Book and Family Festivals. All right. Thank you, everyone. And have a nice rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
thank you, Anna, for having us and doing such a wonderful job moderating.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you,
you. I'll
Anna.
be in touch with everybody, okay?
Okay.
Bye.
Will you be having those wonderful images that you shared, for each individual author and the general one with all of our wonderful pictures? Is that on the website? Will you be sharing that with us?
If you want me to share that specifically, I can.
Yes, please.
Yes,
All
please.
right.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody.